Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, sometimes we have guests on for a couple of different reasons, and we actually felt that having Daniel Goodenough on our show was very important because his book is so amazing, and I think it's really important that we have him discuss why he wrote it, what inspired him, what the book is about, because I think it's going to impress you. So, and I'm talking to my audience now, it is going to impress you. So I want to thank Daniel Goodenough for coming on our show. And Daniel, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know something, Daniel? You wrote this Caravan of Remembering, a roadmap for awakening the experience of your life's mission. Now, this is from Heart's Way Press, and I have a suspicion that there was a reason that you wrote this. Would you tell our audience a little bit about that, please?
Well, the reason I wrote the book was that I'd been teaching these classes, helping people in a weekend format to explore their reason for being here and what that calls them to do and who that calls them to be. And I wanted there to be something that was a general public thing, that anyone could work the process, even if they were at home by themselves working the process. And then to connect that to the conversations, the Caravan Conversations community, where they can work the process working through the book online with other people elsewhere in the world. So I just wanted to make it available to people.
That's very interesting. Now, so the book questions about the right livelihood and life's missions of every world religion and philosophy, from Buddha to Freud to Jung to Maslow. Did you study, did you research what they were all about so that you could prepare for this book?
I have been researching, exploring, checking everything out that's out there for my entire life. For over 50 years, I've been exploring what anyone has had to say about this thing called life's mission, life's purpose, the vision for your life, the way we talk about that. It does, in fact, show up in every religion in the world, and it shows up in, as you mentioned, the worlds of psychology, and it's a kind of a universal principle. And Viktor Frankl, who survived the death camps and was exploring why did people survive the camps, discovered that the people who connected to their reason for being here, that it was important that they lived, had a greater tendency to survive the camps, which had him form logos therapy as a form of psychology, which said that people have the will to meaning. And in the absence of a presence and a articulation of their will to meaning, a vehicle for their will to meaning, they will create, let's say, not necessarily helpful meaning. Mm-hmm. So it's inherent in every human being. We have a will to meaning.
Yeah, well, but you say that, but look at what's happening in the Middle East. I have to bring this up because you just mentioned something very important. You said it's the desire to live, the desire to have a mission, the desire to do something important in your life. But some of the people in the Middle East, they feel that they have to sacrifice their life. And they believe that there's something better up there, but still they want to sacrifice their own life and other people's lives, and that's why there's so many people that are being killed. How do you justify something like that?
Well, I wouldn't justify that myself. All I could say is that happens when they haven't found another reason in life that's greater than the identity they have. So their identity is now not with the body anymore; it's with this idea. And so the idea is more important to them than their body or anyone else's. I think that's a pathological response to the will to meaning, nonetheless, I would say they do that because they have found meaning, and the meaning is greater than their identity with that meme is greater than how they identify with their body or other people's bodies.
Yeah. Now, we just mentioned before Buddha, Freud, Jung, Maslow, but I want to concentrate a little on Buddhism because there seems to be a very, very interesting thing that Buddhists do, and that is that they meditate, they think about all the different things that are going on in the world and how to create peace and harmony with everybody. When you study Buddha, give us a little sense, because not everybody understands what Buddhism really is, and I'd like you to discuss that with our audience.
Well, I'm not a Rinpoche, so I could say that from my experience. Well, for starters, the Buddha said, your work is to find your work and to put all of yourself into it. And the fifth principle of the Eightfold Path is around right livelihood, as you mentioned, which is more than just do no harm. Right livelihood in a way that doesn't cause harm to other people. It's also, there is this principle of Dharma, your nature. So your work is to find your work according to your nature, and there is an honor in doing that. In the sense of kind of the antidote to the thing we just talked about previously, the meditation is to help you free yourself from, let's say, any particular identity. The identity of a particular ideology would say that would be an ego attachment. So in Buddhism, you would be working to find this dropped-in place of presence, which would allow you to be present to any situation in life and the situation in the world without attaching to a particular ego's idea of what there is to do about that, which gives you the freedom to respond with compassion.
Now, people have all kinds of different jobs. Some of them, we know that there are lawyers, there are doctors, there are people who are really professionals in the whole business realm. But many people do this as a way of making money rather than actually doing some good for society. Now, as your story opens, you talk about David, a graphic designer in Chicago, and he's heading home after a particularly meaningless day at work. That's what I was talking about a second ago, that people do things for money rather than meaning. And, their life appears solid and satisfying on the outside, but in truth, it's not really that great. Now, what made you write that? Because I have a suspicion you hit it on the nail on the head, because so many people do things just because they need the money and not because it's really something that they love.
Well, I think people wind up in that place because as a culture we haven't done a good job of helping people early in life get in touch with their reason for being here. So there is this idea in the absence of that let me go for the money because I have no idea why I'm here. When in fact anyone could know why they're here if they're willing to do the practices. My approach to life mission is that it's like any other skill development in life. If you're an athlete or a musician, there are practices or scales to do, and there are practices or scales to do that anyone could do, and earlier the better, especially when you look at a $200,000 investment in graduate school, and some are more, a few are less. So before you make that kind of investment, early, before you leave high school, really we could be helping people know before they even graduate so that they don't, as you say, just gravitate towards the thing that look at the moment when they're going to school like they were going to be some kind of a guarantee for a certain flow of money. And the other last piece to that is I have personally worked with many, many people who are successful in business. They have a family, they have a business, they might be doing philanthropic work with their money. And on the outside looking in, you'd say they have it all together. And when you talk to them, it's not satisfying. And it may actually have almost nothing to do with why they're here.
Yeah.
They became successful at it, but it has nothing to do with why they're here.
Now, David's guide, a variety, asks him these questions. This is the questions that your person in the book answers. He says, what do you love? What do you find beautiful? What do you long for? Okay, so you put this together in your book. Why these particular 3 questions?
Well, there are, and I call them scales, there are over 80 altogether as you move through the book. And those questions would be similar to the questions people would do in a weekend. And the flow of that is embedded in the story. Why you love what you love is a huge key. So if you looked at what you loved growing up, if you look at what you loved, let's say at midlife and later in life, there's something unique to your character about why you love what you love. Some people love adventure movies, some people love romance, some people love mysteries, some people love dramas. So why the difference? And why the difference in music? It says something about who you are. So all these questions are keyed to reveal the thread that is the nature of who you are, that says, if these things are true about you and they weren't an accident, what are they saying about what you're being called to do and who you are? And who you are is the inner life mission, and what that calls you to do is the outer life mission, and they feed each other, and both of those are downline from the why are you here. So all the questions are custom designed to help that emerge in your way of consciously articulating that.
That's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about today versus yesterday. When I say that, I mean I'm talking about, say, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 25 years ago, as compared to what's going on today. Everybody had to work very, very hard. I mean, they worked on farms. They had to get up very early in the morning. They slaved all day virtually, trying to build something. Today, the young people seem to be born with a spoon in their mouth, a golden spoon in their mouth. Is it different when you think about it? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I mean, we've progressed. We've evolved. People have all kinds of things that they do with the computer, and it's getting even more complicated. I just heard something where they said your best friend is going to be a robot. I mean, imagine that. So, Daniel, tell me something. From your studying and from your research, do you feel that this time in life is better than it was before, or what do you think about it?
Well, whether it's better or not, I suppose, could be a personal assessment. What I would say about, in terms of life's mission, that 100 years ago, as you say, it might be that you would be able to do one thing for your entire life. And the number of people who had the freedom to do the exploration about what do I love may have actually been fewer. More and more people were maybe just, here's my station in life and I'm going to do the best I can. I would say that more and more people in our time might have the opportunity to have this exploration, and I would say that if ever there was a time in history where someone who wasn't born with a golden spoon could, through possibilities for exploration through the internet, might actually be able to explore and create a living doing their life mission. In fact, I make that guarantee to people. If you do the process, I absolutely guarantee there'll be a way for you to creatively create a livelihood out of your life's mission. The other thing is, 100 years ago, you might have been able to do one thing for your life. Maybe a couple of decades ago, it was up to 3 or 4 things. Current research says that the average graduating high school student now may have as many as 15 or 16 careers in their lifetime.
Wow.
So knowing your life mission, the particular jobs would be vehicles for the expression of the life mission. The life mission isn't any job per se. You might say that there's work in the world that would help you, that would be the vehicle that would help you express that. So if you might need 15 to 16, maybe even 20 careers in your lifetime, knowing the mission would help you to recreate who you are in a way that you can respond to the necessity of a career change that would allow you to take career after career and create a vehicle within that to express your reason for being here. So if anything, it's perfect for our time, most needed in our time. And if there's anything called job security, which also went away with the modern age, where it used to be you could work 40 years for a company and retire. Right. Now, good luck with that. If there's any job security, it's in knowing who you are, why you're here, what that calls you to do, so that you can dance creatively with the changes you're going to need to make, including how you identify yourself.
Yeah. You have on your website, you have a sample of the questions and exercise sections of your book. Yeah. And there's survey at your home, you say, survey your home as if you belong to a stranger. So then you go on to say that ask yourself who the person is that owns these things and why. Okay, so let's put you in that situation, Daniel. Let's let you survey your home. So I want you to ask yourself who this person is that owns all the things in your home and why do you have them?
Well, if it was me personally, I would say looking at the many bookshelves, first of all, who would this person be that would have this many books? And secondly, which would be true for anyone, who would have these particular books? We mentioned, are they mostly business books? Are they mysteries? Are they adventure? Are they what's the flavor of these books? And who would be this person who would have these books? The same thing would apply to Blu-rays and DVDs who would have these movies, and why those movies, and what does that say about this person? And the same thing for the music, and to some degree, why would this person decorate their house in the way they have? What does that say about who they are? Mm-hmm. Like even the style of the house. What does that say about who you are?
Mm-hmm. And what can you tell about the person's intention or lack of intention for their life?
Well, you could say, is there a sense of some kind of thread to what's showing up in their living space? Or does it seem like there's really no coherent correlation between these things in their house? Is it just kind of random chaos? Is it just anything goes? Or does there seem to be some kind of, if you step back, is there a thread? Is there some kind of a context that is behind these things? If they have collections, well, what a person collects says something about what's important to them. Mm-hmm. So I would say, what's the thread about what this says is the orientation and the context and what this person finds meaningful, and if that's true about them, what does that say about what they might be called to do in the world? Right. And maybe if you don't catch that thread, then maybe you have a clue that they haven't gotten to that yet.
This may be apples and oranges, Daniel, but I want to address a situation that's going on right now. You read all about it in the news, and you ask yourself, oh, my God, what's going on in the world is one of the major questions you ask when you see that people who were very famous, like Charlie Rose, as an example, and various other hosts of different shows on television, and you say to yourself, they're so bright, they ask great questions, they have great shows, they make a lot of money, and yet they do some things that are just awful. What would you say about that?
Well, of course, it's always important for someone to do their personal inner work so that they're not being run by their compensatory self and their complexes and that sort of thing. So there is that. Maybe they haven't done enough of their ashes and shadow work. The other, in terms of a life mission, I might say they lost the thread. That if you say you're a journalist, and if you made that the question at the center of your life, what is this profession called journalism asking of me? And if you were really connected to that, you wouldn't make those kinds of choices because you would know you were jeopardizing your position in this thing you said was what you were called to do in your life. So I think it would be helpful for people in general. Again, and that's saying that you didn't go into journalism because you thought it would be a safe job. If you went into journalism because you really connected that that's your why, and that's what you were called to do and who you were called to be, is this high-level professional within this profession, then you wouldn't make those kinds of, well, let's say you'd be less likely to make those mistakes. What would really help you not do that is to do your shadow work and your ashes work.
Wait a minute.
Complex
let me stop you for a minute. You say your shadow work. Define that for me, please.
Well, one of the most common definitions of shadow work is to be present to what you're in denial about. So let's say to be really angry and then be in denial about being angry is a very simple example. To say that you're angry at a person and you're projecting what you're really angry at is something that was in your life, and the person that you're addressing that to really has very little to do with it. And you're not having the presence that what I'm really angry about is X, Y, Z, whatever it is, means that I'm having a conversation with someone I'm not having a conversation with. Or when people are arguing about something that happened 5 years ago and they haven't done their, let's say, inner work or psychological work about that. So that's another whole vein. It's just to say that if you are present to your why, you would be more likely to do that work so that it didn't get in the way of your why you're here in the world.
Yeah. Now, you must have a story that you could tell our audience about a particular person who you worked with, who told you a lot of different things, and this could be an example for other people who are listening to the show, because it's so interesting to hear about other people's situations. And of course, I don't ask you for a name. Just tell us a little story, if you will.
Wow. Well, there was a man who wanted to raise buffalo, and at the time that didn't seem like a very likely thing one could do to make a living. And after a lot of exploration and looking at the why, what, and who, and then looking at, well, how do you do that? How do you step into that? He did wind up starting a buffalo ranch in Canada and had 800 buffalo and was a happy camper. I could tell you, like I said, I always make a promise. If you're actually willing to do the work and stay with it, there's always a way to make a living doing your passion. Not that that's required. Some people live their why and their passion as an avocation. And life mission is more than a job. It's also, you have a spiritual life mission and a family life mission and a community life mission. There's, it's not just a job, but it's back to the thing we talked about earlier. It's not uncommon to find people, like for some reason, accountants, I've worked with many accountants who said, I'm an accountant because I was good at math. Not because they loved even numbers. They were just good at it. Mm-hmm. So you often find that people will find themselves later in an occupation because they were good at it, not because it was a passion.
Right.
So there are those kinds of situations.
What about religion in people's lives? It seems that there are less people, if you will, who attend different services in different churches, albeit whether they're Christian, whether they're Jewish, whether they're whatever. How important is it to have religion in your life?
Well, Ken Wilber's definition of spirituality was, spirituality are the questions of ultimate concern. I kind of like that as a definition. The questions of ultimate concern are, if science says here's how it works, spirituality says here's why I should care about that. So if you bring these questions of ultimate concern about why should we care about any of these things in our life, why should we care about people on the other side of the planet and whether they're in poverty or whether they're about to die of starvation, why should we care about that? That's spirituality.
That's right.
And when I look at the third level of life mission, first being why, what, and who, and the second being how, the third one is the manner in which you do it is as important perhaps as whether you do it. Because if you do your life mission but with a bad attitude and you do it poorly, maybe it would have been better not to do it, maybe. So then if we could say, if the manner in which you do it is important, then I talk about doing it artfully, beautifully, skillfully, and sacredly. So if you bring the questions of ultimate concern to your why, what, and who, so that you're actually engaged from a way that my concern for the meaning of why I'm doing this makes it sacred to me, then everything in your life, whether it's Buddhist mindfulness or whether it's that's why every spiritual tradition in the world has come back to this question of the why.
The why.
And in Hinduism, there's 4 ways to God, or 4 ways of waking up, and one is through your work. There's renunciation and waking up through love, and there's 4 ways, and one of them is work, so that you can wake up through your work in the world if you make your work sacred.
Yeah. That's a very interesting and very beautiful way to finish our show, Daniel. I want to thank Daniel Goodenough for being on the Susan Brender Show. He's written The Caravan of Remembering, a very interesting and very valuable book. And Daniel, if people want to know how to get in touch with you or buy your book, what do they have to do?
Well, you could go to the caravanofremembering.com website and order the book. Its hard copies are available on Amazon. You can also get it on Kindle, Barnes & Noble Nook, Kobo, and iTunes. And if you want to get involved in the community working the process, you can go to caravanconversations.community, pick up a book, and find a group to work with anywhere in the globe.
That is fantastic. Well, our guest today has been Daniel Goodenough, a real interesting guy, and I want to thank him again for being on the Susan Brender Show, and hopefully he'll write another book and we'll have him on again so he can really enlighten you a little bit. So, thank you again, and it was wonderful having you on the show, Daniel.
Thank you very much for having me.
And now, Ask Dr. Gabriella Juris, brought to you by the Susan Brender Show. We're giving a voice to America.
I am Dr. Gabriella Juris, and I'm so excited to be with you regularly on the Susan Brender Show. I am here to help you to start your own journey to optimal health and long, productive life. Let's get started. I can tell you that really it is possible to slow down disease process, to reverse symptoms of a disease. And also, what everybody wants to do, slow down the aging process of your body so you can regenerate and rejuvenate your body and ultimately live a long and productive life. People ask me, Dr. Juris, is it really possible? And I said yes, because there is a powerful connection between your environment, between your lifestyle, and between your DNA and your genes. And based on the new science and the understanding, we now know that our lifestyle, the way we think, and the way we live, what we believe can really change the way your genes express themselves without changing the sequence of your DNA. People felt like if my mom and dad had heart disease, I have to get heart disease. If my family had cancer, I will get a cancer. And there is a predisposition that you carry because environment has that influence. However, we know that there are switches on the top of your genes that can be turned on or off, and they can express the disease or they express, where I want to tell you how exciting that is for me to share this with you. The problem that we have in our modern society and what we have to do actually to make changes to achieve the extraordinary health. So let me spend a minute just to kind of remind you what is happening here in our world. Because you know that nature gave us everything we need to build strong foundation and create extraordinary health. We had pristine soil. We had a soil rich in minerals, beneficial microorganisms. We had everything in our food that would give us the health we need. In addition, nature gave us the mechanism. It's an intrinsic cellular healing system. So that healing system will always work for you, but only if your body is in perfect balance, because then your body can self-diagnose, self-correct, and regenerate their health. And this is here. So this innate healing mechanism is a nature's way to constantly restore, regenerate, and preserve the integrity and balance your life function. However, our modern lifestyle comes with the price. We have advances in medicine that benefit the world, but our environment is making us sicker. We have convenient and speedy prepackaged natural food. However, this particular easy and very, very convenient way of living is causing our health to deteriorate. Our food is also contaminated with hormones and dangerous chemical coloring. Look at it for what it is. We live in a modern technological world, and it comes with the price. So we are not only slowly destroying the ecological balance of our planet, but we are destroying the delicate balance that exists within our body. And remember, polluted world, polluted body. The good news is that we can actually change that. We can rebuild, repair, reinvent our health. And this is where I come in, and I will be talking to you about something exciting, principles of health, how you can change everything step by step using these 10 principles, all aspects of our being, the physical body, the mind, the spirit, and the environment. And this is where I wrote the 10 principles that will remind you what you need to do. And it's simple, and I will talk to you at every show about some of these principles. I am inviting you to email me your questions, and I'm offering also personalized consultation. So please take a pen and write my email, drgabriela.juris@yahoo.com. Dr, no period, Gabriela, 2 L's, Juris is JURIS @yahoo.com. Or you can even call me 310 area code 926-8434. 310 area code 926-8434. Please don't hesitate to call.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.